Broadway Junction. This is not a subway stop. It's a psychological endurance test disguised as public transportation.
Whoa. This is not about Broadway Junction.
It's about its meth head little cousin, the Atlantic Avenue Elevated Stop, a station that is a shadow of its former self, where everything both shakes and stands, still like an overdosing Fenty addict.
So let's get serious now and talk about it. First up, Atlantic Avenue in Brooklyn is long. It's the waistband of the budgie smuggler of Brooklyn, and it has one station on it called Atlantic Avenue towards its west end. It's a major transfer point between R and D 2, 3, 4, 5, Q, and B lines. The elevated Atlantic Avenue subway station is the one we're talking about today, and it's 4 miles to the west and just south of Broadway Junction. It's an unloved shadow station just outside of a nearby, more popular transfer station. Every borough has one. You've got Hunters Point Avenue in Queens, forever in the shadow of Courthouse Square, East Broadway on the Lower East Side, in the shadow of Essex Street, 167 in the Bronx, and let's say Tompkinsville, because there ain't shit else down there. Atlantic Avenue was once a really important station in its own right. It served as a transfer point between the Canarsie line and the Fulton Elevated lines. And just below the Long Island Railroad's Atlantic branch, heading to Flatbush Avenue, now called Atlantic Terminal, right there in East New York, they have a station right below this one. The entire LIRR Atlantic Terminal line used to run on the surface of Atlantic Avenue, but tracks were later buried underground, much to the east of here, and then placed on elevated to the west of here before re-entering a tunnel and going into the underground Atlantic Avenue Terminal. And yes, there's another abandoned station at Woodhaven Boulevard on that line, but we're not going to talk about that today. Back at Atlantic Avenue, under the active Long Island Railroad line, there's a second Long Island Railroad station on the Bay Ridge branch. And it's an inactive abandoned station. It has been sitting there since 1924 with no passenger trains.
This station is a forlorn shadow of its former self, another crack-addled highlight of capitalism's war against public transportation.
Holy Attenslobsboro, 9! This station is an entirely different station that'll probably maybe reopen with the newly planned IBX route, assuming it's not Vaporware and Hochul has half a brain. You might recognize that abandoned station from different TV productions, Law & Order, a recent Fallout series, but let's get the heck out of the tunnels and get back up on Elevated. The Atlantic Avenue station was opened in 1889 as part of the Fulton Street Elevated. It was soon reconfigured to support trains for the Canarsie line, which began running in 1906. The station has 6 tracks on 3 island platforms. At least that's how it was originally set up. Now, just south of the station, the Elevateds bifurcate. One goes over Snediker Avenue, another goes over Van Sninderen, or however you pronounce that one. So we've got 2 parallel Elevateds, and this was a very robust infrastructure, and they slowly started whittling it back. One of the northbound tracks on Snediker Avenue they removed, and then in the center platform, they removed that from service, and they just kept the tracks in place for storage purposes. And then in 1940, half of the old Fulton Elevated west of here was closed with the opening of the new A and C IND line directly below the ground under the same street. So there was no purpose to keep the Elevated. So they cut that back to Rockaway Avenue, which was just east of here. And finally, in 1956, the IND was completed going east of Broadway Junction, down below Pitkin Avenue, under the Elevated, and then back up onto the Elevated east of Grant Avenue. So that whole section, they finally took that Elevated down. But they only cut it down to Snediker Avenue because the northbound Canarsie track was still using that portion of the Elevated, while the parallel one over Snediker Avenue hosted the southbound Canarsie line tracks. Both Elevateds were left with these empty, unused trackways. So a few decades passed, and Atlantic Avenue was used in this very jerry-rigged, half-abandoned, half-decaying fashion. The immediate neighborhood below it had taken a turn for the worse throughout like the 1960s, 70s. It became a very blighted area, so that certainly didn't help. It didn't prioritize maintaining the station or cleaning it up and reconfiguring it. Finally, the MTA came to its senses and realized the station didn't so much need a glow-up as it did a blow-up. Now, launching a cannon at it wasn't really an option, nor was busting out the Quadzilla, which is highly illegal in New York State, unfortunately. They did decide, though, that, maybe we should just cut it up with a cutting torch. And that's what they did starting in 2003. You can see they started with the center platform, cutting that up, taking down a lamppost, taking down a canopy. They also started knocking out the concrete, which they would later relay to connect this trackway right in front of us over to the former Snediker Elevated off to the upper right so that they could connect the tracks to the existing Broadway Junction platform. The Snediker platform, as you can see here, was still in use at the time. That's the former northbound track right there in the foreground. And it was just a couple of weeks before the demolition work spread to the Snediker Elevated. And here we are looking south. You've got the former Fulton track on the left and the active in 2003 Canarsie track on the right. This entire elevated is gone today. So here we are on a center platform. That is a northbound L train. We're looking up towards Broadway Junction. That little box over there, that is actually a set of stairs that goes down towards the mezzanine. And over there, you've got a southbound L train. This L line is very busy. There's always trains coming and going, so if you're up here, you can see everything. And over there is the former Snediker platform. And that platform is also incredibly short, incredibly barren, no canopy, nothing, although it does still have an old sign in place. You get a good view of the Jamaica-bound J train here, as well as the ramp, that single-level trackway that goes up above towards Alabama Avenue and just ends abruptly. That was supposed to be an express track, and for whatever reason it was built and just left there as this crazy ramp. I can't be the only person who's ever thought of that. Anyway, here at the north end of the platform, I was kind of baffled to find this large chunk of ironwork, which is from the original platform. They never changed this out. A lot of these walls they changed out on many of the stations over the years, and this one remains. And just beyond it, you can see all the ironwork heading up to Broadway Junction. All of that ironwork needs to be kept in place because of where all the supports are. So removing it would actually cost more money than just leaving it where it is. At the south end of this really short platform, you've got this little barrier that they put up for safety, and that's looking straight down Snediker Avenue. This is where the elevated used to proceed down to Pitkin. And then you've got, looking over here towards the west, you've got the active platform with the center platform in the middle, which doesn't even stick out because it's nice and flat now. And then again, you can look over there and you can see J trains heading towards Jamaica or coming from Jamaica. And then right below that little bridgeway, right under there is where the Long Island Railroad is. Right where those cars are going, under that is the active Atlantic Avenue branch. And here on the former trackway, you've got quite a drainage problem. There's a drain clogged here, and there's actually stuff growing in the drain. All kinds of plants, and who knows, maybe there'll be even some funny fish growing in there with 3 eyes. Who knows? The immediate area is, I wouldn't say it's thriving, but there are businesses here like this welding shop that's working on some iron fences with their creatively welded together pickup trucks over there. So yeah, lots of cool small businesses around here popping up. There's also this abandoned Long Island Railroad substation dating back to when the Atlantic Avenue branch was literally on the surface of the road, but we're not going to really talk about this building yet because there's so many things that we could have covered in this video, but we would have been here for like 3 days. So many abandoned things that I could talk about all across New York City, particularly train stuff. So yeah, if you want to see more and learn more and read more, you gotta sign up for the newsletter. It's down there in the description. That will give you access to all the good stuff that I'm doing. Also, I've got some crazy big fun announcements coming up in the next few weeks, so you're gonna see that first in the newsletter. Do that. Sign up. Take a second right now. And since we're here, if you were digging some of the obscure TV references that I put into this video, you might want to see this little bit of bonus content right now. That's an old Alco S6 locomotive. And it still exists in a museum. If you zoom in just north of Los Angeles, you'll find a town called Fillmore. And if you zoom all the way in, you'll find two S6 locomotives there. These locomotives were used in a ton of movies back in the day. Here you see the ending of Back to the Future 3, and oh yeah, what's coming? Same damn locomotives. Those two locomotives are just sitting there back at a museum, not looking too great, could probably use some paint, but that's a whole other story. If you really like weird train trivia, Abandoned Trains Volume 1 and 2 are for you. The link is in the description. And that's a wrap. Hope you enjoyed this. You got things to do, I got things to do. Go live your life, and I'll catch you on the next one.